Hello friends. So this is A Look in the Dark, chapter 17, and it's part 2. The chapter is called Cards on the Table, and our four friends, Danny and Carol, Ricky and Sue, have met at the Green's house to discuss, is it time to hand things over to the authorities? They've decided that it is. They're all in agreement, but Danny has just made the point that it has to be done right. Ricky politely waited a few seconds to see if the others had any ideas, but they were thinking about something he'd already given much thought to. I have some thoughts about it, Daniel. He was not sure if this was what Danny was worrying about or not. Can I relate the method I think best? Sure, Rick. Go ahead. Well, it is no secret to you, Danny and Carol, that I do not trust the established order of things too much. I guess that in the short while you've known me, Sue, you've picked that up too. Sue laughed as if she'd heard a good joke. You're just like my dad. When we were chatting the other night, you said that you like the quote, "There's nothing more agreeable in life than making peace with the establishment and nothing more corrupting." And my dad said it with a different accent, but he's been telling me that from the pram. A.J.P. Taylor, the historian, I think. Your father and I should get on like wildfire. Well, what I'm actually trying to say is this is far too big to trust to one individual who might leave it sitting on his desk for weeks, or even to one organisation that may have other priorities. Do you agree? We're all with you there, Ricky, Carol spoke as the others nodded. Right, so I suggest that the four of us make simultaneous visits to the following organisations or people. One of us goes to the police, another to the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, another to Her Majesty's Custom and Exercise, and the last one to a suitable Member of Parliament. Sounds pretty good, Ricky. Danny had noted the four suggested locations on the notepad in front of him. I think we should do that okay, 4 of us and 4 of them. I've got the phone number of that cop that my brother-in-law Dave gave me. The RSPB are easy enough to contact, and I guess it's not very hard to find the right customs officer. Probably it doesn't make much difference as long as we speak to someone a bit senior who can help appreciate the importance. Carol was happy that they had a strategy that seemed solid enough, so she asked, eyes wide open, who does Uncle Ricky consider to be a suitable MP? Ricky returned her smile. As a matter of fact, dear girl, I do have someone in mind. Needs to be someone a bit radical. No good asking one of those good boys of either the Tories, Labour or the Liberal crowd. We need someone who will really stir things up if they're not dealt with properly. Someone who won't be worrying about who is implicated by these records, and someone with an environmental conscience. Ricky ran his right hand through his hair. He looked at all 3 of them and then asked, have you, dear friends, ever heard of David Brentland, MP? I have, Sue said. My dad thinks he's great. Must be a real lefty. Yes, he is, but he is a man of amazingly good sense, sticks to his principles and doesn't care who he upsets by doing it. Great constituency man, very popular with the people in the part of Yorkshire he represents. A bit of a thorn in the side of the Labour Party. A few months back he voted with the Tories over some farming issue because he felt it made more sense, their policy. I think he's made some interesting statements about Ireland too. I remember the name. Oh, and he upset the people because he met with some representatives of Sinn Féin a couple of years ago. I think it was him. Carol was right. So has he got an environmental conscience then, Ricky? Danny was sure Ricky would consider that, but he didn't want his wife to swerve the meeting over to the Irish Sea again. Oh yes, old boy. Paid up member of CND, Friends of the Earth, Greenpeace, and you would be pleased to know that he's a member of both the RSPB and the Wildfowl and Wetlands Trust. That is, as well as a member of a couple of Northern Ireland conservation societies, you know the kind of thing, local groups, Save Our Meadows in North Templewick type of issues. Do you know him, Ricky? Danny thought he might be one of Ricky's anti-establishment unlikely friends. No, I don't know him. Not yet. But I'm convinced he's the man for the job. He's a real Tony Benn type. but he's got a much lower profile in the house. Tony's fighting enough good causes already, and the fact that he doesn't know me might be for the best. All four agreed that David Brenton was the man in the House of Commons they could best share the records with. He didn't sound like a man to brush everything under the thick but ancient establishment carpet. It was Sue that put it that way, much to the approval of the others. They all agreed that this would work best if all authorities were given the same information at the same time. They also liked Ricky Claymore's idea that after 2 weeks the whole story and a copy of relevant information be passed to Stephen Sinclair at the BBC in Bristol. Danny thought that it best if the police, the customs and the RSPB just get told that all the information they've been supplied with would be given to a prominent media person a fortnight later. They also sorted out who would go where and arranged for the efficient Sue to set up the appointments all to coincide. She was very pleased to be trusted with that and to represent them on an equal footing to the rest on the day they would have those meetings. Danny Green looked at them and was sorry he had to remove the satisfied smiles. Ricky had given a great deal of thought to strategy, but he had not worried about one major concern that Danny hadn't yet voiced. He stopped Sue, who was about to move toward the kitchen. What we've accomplished is good and we're allowed to be pleased with ourselves, but there's another matter that we must sort out before we make any move at all. He had his attention, so he continued. What we're forgetting is that we're dealing with a deadly person. What happened to Theo's sister-in-law? She was thrown from a block of flats. Carol shivered as she said it. Right. 3 of us are known to Stanhurst. He thinks I'm Nick Ashby, but he knows my face. Sue worked for him. Carol sat at his desk to talk about books. And Ricky, you've been snooping around yourself, and that gangster in the Bournemouth office of the Geographic Council, he knows you. All 4 of us would be recognised from any TV, bulletin or newspaper photograph if we went public on all this. Have you thought of that? Danny's words suddenly subdued the mood in the room. I knew something was bothering you, Daniel, Ricky said seriously. After a few moments, Sue bravely spoke. Well, Danny, I feel like you and Carol did in Ireland. This is a cause worth dying for if we have to. Carol laughed at the courageous Cockney girl. Oh, aye, this is a girl who claims she only does what she's paid for, is it? Sue laughed too. We're sorting out this lot's only paper. I'm so angry with all the people on these records. She tapped the files in front of her. It would be worth dying for to fix them, no matter what it costs. We still have to tell, don't we? It was a question she knew the answer to. I'm not thinking of not telling Sue. Danny quickly made his point clearer. I'm talking about how we go about it, how we can do it without making ourselves known. You yourself, Rick, you felt going to Tony Benn would be a disadvantage because he knows you. We have to worry about preserving the birds, but we need to be careful that we preserve ourselves as well. I see what you mean, old boy. In all our excitement, we've not really given that as much thought as we should. He raised his hand to his throat. I need a drink. Could we have a short break and then discuss it? Hi, you're right, Uncle Ricky. I'm dry as a bone with all this talking and thinking. Carol rose from her chair. It's okay, boys. We'll do it. Tell Sue what you want, and I'll put the kettle on. Okay, first though, Sue, sit down and write these points of agreement. I think I have. Sue glanced at her notes and read from them. Decisions. 1. We do pass on all the information soon. Dates to be decided. 2nd, we contact at the same time the following: the RSPB, Police, Customs and Excise, and David Brentland MP. 3. We inform these authorities that 2 weeks later we'll be passing all the records we have given to them to a well-respected media person. Is that okay? Sue, your efficiency is amazing. Do you want coffee, Ricky, or... Danny pointed to the bottle of whiskey on the top of the bookcase where Carol kept her recipe books. Scotch would be nice, old boy, thanks. Sue smiled and entered the kitchen where the kettle was already starting to make a noise and where there was a smell of chocolate cake. Carol was putting a large slice on a plate and had 3 more plates lined up. I think the men have a different idea of a drink to us, Carol. Typical. We're about to talk about staying alive, and those two villains in there are going to befuddle their heads with alcohol. Are we mad to follow them or what? Well, Carol, if you want my opinion, I think you'd follow that man of yours to the bottom of an active volcano crater if he asked you to. You're right, so you are. Still, we'll stick to caffeine, I think. I'm so glad to be part of this, you know. We're so glad you are part of it. I wanted to tell you personally how I feel. You've been a treasure to us all, not just your work. You're a true friend, Sue, and I was very touched by your bravery in there. Listen, whatever happens from here on, we must always stay in touch, and there will ever be a warm welcome here for you. Sue's gentle blue eyes met Carol's sparkling emerald eyes, and the energy of true sisterly affection passed between them. Loyalty, affection, deep friendship, strong feelings of respect, they were all there, and they were mutually understood without another word being spoken. Their lives would never be separate again. Sue smiled, but it was Carol who broke the silence. Taking the young woman's hand, she said, You must see yourself as an equal in there, young lady. What we've been doing in our detective work along with Ricky is important, but your paperworking has truly stretched right round the globe. And the way you've laid it out, it's all going to make it so easy for folk to follow and use. When we say that you've proved to be a gem, we really mean it, you know. Thanks, Carol. I've tried to put my heart into this. It's not just been a job. It's a lot more to me than that. I do find compliments hard to take, though. Well then, I'm going to have to show you how to accept them graciously. I was like that when I went to college, but this girl there, she was called Geraldine. She taught me. Haha, we better get in there. If you bring our drinks, I'll bring the cake. In the dining room, Ricky was assuring Danny that Stephen Sinclair could be trusted not to expose the source of his information when it all came to be public. As the others enjoyed their chocolate cake and drinks, Carol reached for a dictionary of quotations, and finding the one she was looking for, she sat at the table and ate her cake. Soon the other three followed her lead, and Danny reopened the discussion. So, friends, do we let everything out of the bag, including ourselves, knowing that we'll probably get skinned? If we don't, how do we like the blue touch paper and walk away to watch the firework display without anyone apart from Theo, 3 IRA men, and Paul Hanlon knowing who was responsible? Carol had opened her book of quotations, and all eyes turned to her. She read the words in a soft voice. And silence sounds no worse than cheers after death has stopped the ears. A. Houseman, if you're interested. The other three looked at Carol expectantly, but she just stared back. She obviously thought explanation unnecessary. Danny didn't agree. So? Well, I'm not sure if Mr. Houseman meant what I think he did, but it's how I've applied it in Northern Ireland. If we openly show our involvement, we'll get all the limelight for a while, the cheers if you like, but before long we might be in silence for good. I believe that this is a cause to die for if we have to, but I know that you, Sir Richard Claymore, have much good in you to do for this world yet. As for you, Daniel Green, promising new writer, the world would have far too little work of yours to read in your absence, and I love you too much to advance your demise. So, have you looked in the mirror lately? A beautiful young lady to make someone a really good wife, a great wee girl in every way. And there are 3 people here who could never see anyone harm a hair of your head. As for me, well, if I got killed, me mummy would kill you down. If Stanhope didn't. I know he would be in jail, but we're sure from what we know that he probably had people killed when he was in jail before. Anyway, there's a lot more than Stanhope in these documents. My honest opinion is that we should avoid being implicated in any way. I don't want Mr. Houseman's silence of death, and I would hate it to be the lot of any of you. In fact, I want to be around to fight another day, maybe again all of us together. The 4 of them saw clearly what Carol was saying. Danny tapped his fingers on the table gently for a few seconds, and then he asked, Sue, do you feel the same? Yes. If anything happened to any of you, I couldn't cope with that, and parents would be devastated if I was murdered. Rick, I agree totally with the girls, old boy. Danny frowned, then he smiled. Yes, we've done all we can. Best if we just slip unnoticed out of the side door and let these people take all the credit. We will enjoy reading about it. So, there they are then. They've made a decision about how to go forward. They're going to contact the police, the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, Customs and Excise, and the Radical MP David Brentland. They're going to do it at the same time. And then a couple of weeks later, they're going to take it all to the media, a BBC man that Ricky has already visited in Bristol. So they have a plan of action, but now they've got to work out how they can step out of the way and not be visible to the media in any way, because they want to preserve themselves as well as the birds. How are they going to do all this? In the next episode, there are some revealing facts about Ricky's past and why he's so bitter about the establishment that he's supposed to be part of. I'll be sharing that with you soon. Thanks for your time, my friends. Bye-bye for now. Please take care. Love and peace to you. Bye-bye.